let's talk about why you can still have a fear of abandonment, even if your parents were physically present and provided financially for you in your childhood. Hey there, I'm Lauren. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in all things relationships and attachment. Physically present and provided financially and had a roof over your head and all of that, and you still have this fear of abandonment that shows up in your relationships, you're not alone. And that's because we can have an emotional abandonment. If our parents weren't emotionally available, they weren't able to meet our emotional needs, talk about emotions, validate them, hold space for them, we can have an abandonment wound. And that's because as kids, we are very self-centered. We can't see our parents as their own person, their own flawed human within their context of their own trauma and issues. We think everything is about us. So if our parents aren't able to be there for us emotionally, we assume it must be something about us. There must be something inherently wrong with me. I must not be worthy of that love. And we internalize that message, and it really impacts us and shows up in our relationships over and over again unless we address it. Some ways that this may show up in relationships is if we are way more concerned about whether the person we're dating likes us, rather than checking in with ourselves and understanding, do I actually like this person, or is this what I need and want from a relationship? Or it may show up as us taking things really, really personally when somebody doesn't want to connect with us or says something about us. It may also show up in us staying in relationships much longer than we really want to, even if we're miserable and unhappy of staying for that fear of abandonment. Or it can also show up in continually dating the same type of person, of somebody we think we can rescue or save, or who we really feels like needs us. And of course, there's a myriad of other ways that this can show up in our relationships, and it will show up again and again, even if we are dating different people and in a little bit different ways, but that same theme will be there unless we identify what it is and address it. So what do you do about this? You may be sitting there and going, okay, Lauren, I see this. I have some emotional abandonment. What do I do? And what you do is something called inner child work. And this is really helpful to do in therapy, but there are some things you can do on your own to really do some inner child healing. And an inner child is just the younger version of yourself, that wounded part of yourself that comes out and is repeating these patterns, trying to heal that wound, or gets triggered in certain moments, and that fear of abandonment comes out. So inner child work is really about talking to that inner child, soothing them, and providing that emotional validation and comfort that you didn't get growing up. It's essentially reparenting yourself. You're giving yourself the stuff you needed that you didn't get from your parents, calming that inner child. Here are a few tips of how you can do some inner child work on your own. Writing is a really powerful way to get in touch with your inner child and do some healing. One way you can do this is by writing a letter to your inner child, recognizing and validating everything that they experienced and validating the emotions that you had growing up. And then providing comfort of saying, you're safe now, I'm here for you, you're not alone, you're worthy of love, or whatever it is that your inner child needed to hear. Similarly, being able to talk to your inner child and provide that for yourself. When that fear of abandonment gets triggered, of talking to that younger version of yourself. Imagine that little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever age it was that really comes to your mind's eye, and saying, you're safe, you're worthy of love, you have value, and whatever it is that you wish you had heard as a child. It's also important to start checking in with yourself, getting in tune with what you want, what your inner child needs, what you need. Because a lot of the times, as with inner child wounds, your needs were put to the side or weren't validated. So you may not be in practice of really knowing what you want, need, or what's happening with you. So practice checking in with yourself every day. How am I feeling? What's going well in life? What's not going so well? How do I feel about those things? What am I feeling in my body? Practicing these in everyday moments helps kind of train you for those moments when there's more high intensity or moments with a lot more charge, because you're starting to get in tune and recognizing what you're feeling, connecting that with body sensations and emotional vocabulary, and it'll really help you as you move forward in relationships. As you check in with yourself, it's also really important to not talk yourself out of what you're feeling. Often when there's emotional abandonment, there was an invalidation or dismissing of your emotions. So it may be really easy for you to fall into, well, I shouldn't feel that way, or other people might feel differently, or I should just be grateful, and really discounting, disconnecting from your emotions. So don't judge what you're feeling, just let yourself feel it, which I know is maybe sounds easier to say than to actually do. I know that. What I want you to do to be able to feel your feelings, as you'll hear a lot of us therapists say, is really first identify what you're feeling and just sit with it. Don't try to distract yourself. Don't numb out. Don't do any of those normal things. Just let yourself feel it. And it's probably going to feel pretty uncomfortable if you're used to disconnecting from it. That's how you know you're on the right track. So sit in that uncomfortability. And if you're like, I don't know how to do that, I'm so afraid like it's just going to get too overwhelming, set a timer. You can set a timer. Okay, I'm going to sit in this emotion for 5 minutes. I'm going to sit in this grief or this sadness or whatever it is. And for 5 minutes, I'm just going to let myself feel it. I'm going to notice what I'm feeling in my body. Again, you're trying to build an emotional vocabulary, understanding when I feel this sensation in my body, this is what I'm feeling, and connecting those things. It's really, really going to help you connect with your inner child and do some healing. Another important way to get in touch with your inner child is through play, creativity, singing, dancing. This really lets you get in touch with a type of self-expression that you probably didn't get to do as a kid because the emotions were cast to the side. So engaging in these types of really free expression helps pull out that inner child and allows you to do that reparenting where you can talk to your child gently and really allowing your inner child to be themselves. Now you have some tools to start healing your inner child. Let me know which one you're going to try below, or if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and be sure to follow along for more content on relationships, attachment, and mental health.